Hello everyone, Michelle here from the Creative Cove. Thanks for joining me today. Today we'll be making these. These are little experiments with different types of transparent papers and some glue. So stick around, let's have some fun. Okay, so I got some tissue paper, just folded up. And my micron at 0.2, which is archival as well as waterproof, which is what we want if we're going to add glue over top. And I'm just going to do a quick sketch here, a botanical little sketch of, what's that stuff called? I love milkweed. It's just such a cool plant and it's really fun to draw. So I just stay nice and loose and I'm just doing a quick little sketch here. Not too much detail, just trying to catch the form. Trying to keep my hand out of the way. Normally I would draw like this, but trying to make sure you guys can see what I'm doing here. And I'm just having fun drawing some of the leaves and shapes. I like to use a reference book sometimes, try to inspire the shape of a plant. You know, sometimes you run out of ideas and it's nice to have a reference to use. If you've got anything that inspires you to doodle, then go ahead and grab it. Whether it's a painting you might have or a magazine, a gardening book, anything that will spark your imagination and kind of get you in the mood to want to draw. Because sometimes you can draw all day, but if you're not feeling it, you're not feeling it, you know. So I like to pick up a pen when I'm in the mood and draw for as long as I can before, you know, life gets in the way and you've got responsibilities and things. But I find sketching things like this extremely therapeutic and I just love doing it. So again, nice and loose. I'm not over concerned about the details. I'm going to keep this in real time on the video. So if you find this a bit monotonous, go ahead and fast forward. Hopefully you're drawing along with me. And I wanted to show you the difference on tracing paper and tissue paper. So this is tissue paper that I'm using right now. And it's extremely thin and delicate. But what I have noticed is it's much easier to work with after than tracing paper when it comes to gluing down. The tracing paper I found was very wrinkly. It didn't sit well, does not like to get wet. And of course, most glues are wet. And the Mod Podge, these ancient Mod Podge that I'm using, super old, is diluted with a little bit of water as well, just to soften it, because like I said, it's old and it's been sitting in my cabinet for some time. And I want to use it up. So it does not sit well with tissue paper. Sorry, with tracing paper. So as thin and delicate as this tissue paper is, and this is just standard tissue paper, you know, the stuff you wrap a gift around. It's pretty strong. Like, this is a very fine pen and it's not ripping through it. And I'm pushing hard in some spots. And it makes for a nice kind of soft, delicate surface to draw on. It has a bit of a resistance with the ink. So as you can see, the ink doesn't go on super smooth. You know, it's not a solid line of ink, it breaks. So you can see where I'm drawing and I'll only get a little bit of that line. Now that can drive some of you nuts. I personally like it. I like how it kind of deflects, I should say, the pen marks so that I don't get all the marks. And then suddenly I'll get a full mark. So not as much control as you might think on this paper, but still a lot of fun to sketch on. And again, just nice and loose. I don't even know what plant this is. Just coming out of my head. And these sketches I intend to use with kind of clusters or maybe just focal points glued into a book page. They're not, they're more of an accent piece. But you can do, you know, whatever you want with them. Okay, so that is the tissue paper. Very thin, light, and delicate. It's really quite pretty. And this is it's folded, so this is the single ply here. Okay, so let's grab my tracing paper pad, which is on the floor here beside me. I got this for $1.99 from the thrift shop. There's tons in here, and you can see the difference in tracing paper. Tracing paper is much more crinkly. This is much more thin. I would say there's a wax content in tracing paper would be my guess. I don't know exactly what it's made of. Maybe a polymer of some kind, which is why it reacts to water so differently. And it's still a nice medium to work with though. So I think I'll sketch pretty much the same thing. Now tracing paper, I find you can see instantly that it goes, there's not as much resistance in the ink. It tends to grab the ink a little more, which is nice. It also depends on the pen you're using, of course. If you're using a ballpoint or ink flow pen, your ink is going to flow much faster and you'll get a much darker line. And it all just really depends on what it is you're after. So I like this rough, sketchy look. I think it's kind of a romantic, soft look to the sketch, which I really love. It's something I like to see in my journals. I'm just gonna kind of do this quickly because I don't want to take all day drawing. And I just love milkweed. It's just something really fun. The leaves are just so fun to draw. I mean, you can really do just any kind of leaf shape here. And I'm also using the side of the pen. Normally, like I said, I would be up higher, which would also give me a thicker line, but I'm trying to stay out of the way. So it's not getting as much mark on there as it normally would. And you got to play with your pens and your papers and things and find out what it is that you like. You might not like the whole resistance thing of the ink. It might drive you bonkers. You're going to find what you like. And the only way to do that is to experiment. This is what I do in my studio sometimes. I think, what am I going to make today? What do I feel like doing? Sometimes it's playing with paper. Sometimes it's playing with other mediums that I might have. Sometimes I want to use up some material that's been sitting around in my studio for far too long. And I want to use it up. So today I was thinking, I have all this tissue paper. What can I do with this tissue paper? And I was in the mood to doodle. So these sketches are not overly time consuming. You know, it just depends how much effort you want to put into it. But I do love them in my journal, so it's nice to have a stash of them so you can just spend the day doodling. And then the next day or next time you have some time, you can spend it gluing these into journals or experimenting with what you might want to do with them. In this case, we're going to glue them to different pages. and see what we like. So in order to glue, remember you do want to use a waterproof type pen. And these microns I love these microns. I'm running low. This is my last 0.2. I've used them all up. Okay, and we'll do one more. Let's do a similar one to what we had before. That way we have a nice even comparison. I wanted to try some other papers too. See what else I've got kicking around. I do have videos on sketching. They're called Quickie Sketch. I'll try and remember to link the playlist below if you want to learn how to sketch some of these. And I would recommend sketching. It is just so much fun. And for those of you who always comment, I can't draw a straight line with a ruler, which I love that saying. Give sketching a try, you know. Follow along with a YouTuber that you're comfortable with, and you might just surprise yourself at what you're capable of when you're shown a little step by step. I wanted to see too, where is my fun random papers here? Some other kind of paper. There's some sketches I have kicking around that I haven't used up yet. So I'm always sketching, I'm always doodling. I wanted to see if I can find some plain tissue paper here. That's wax paper. So like pattern paper, we could try that. More tissue paper. I think that's really all I have. This is fiber paper. I could try that. I was hoping to find some packaging paper. You know, the stuff that comes, the brown, your standard brown paper. Let's see if I can find something. Okay, here's a piece of packaging paper. So this stuff, you know, that it's kind of jammed in a box. Let's play with this. I'm just going to cut it down to a bit more of a manageable size. I also cut a piece of that pattern paper out. Very, very thin, but we can maybe do some doodles on that. Okay. Let's do this one first. Where did I put my pen now? Okay, so maybe we can... Well, I also pulled out my book here. This one I use all the time, Field Books of American Wildflowers. It's a really old book. It's really starting to fall apart. But it's got some beautiful drawings in it. And I use these as references all the time. And let's see, I've drawn the milkweed picture out of this. There it is there. So many times that it comes like second nature to me. I've drawn it so many times. I'm just trying to find some fun leaves here. And this is nice. Let's do these leaves. So don't copy it exactly, but I use it as kind of an inspiration to sketch. So I don't know if that's gonna work. Let's try. This tripod thing's really irritating. I don't know if you can see that, but hopefully you can. I'll just do a small one here. So I just kind of, I'm basically just mimicking the form of the leaves. And I just want to kind of get a different leaf shape by looking at these books without spending too much time kind of copying all the details. Millie, stop that. I'm not going to bother with the flower. I'm just going to put another leaf up here. Millie's just sleeping in her bed here, but keeps moving around. It's like, just settle down, please. You always do that when I go to film. I'll do that other leaf out this way. So not copying it, but getting kind of inspired by the shape of the leaves. And it's really helpful to have a visual, like I said, in front of you. And I'm just trying to get the form of this plant without spending too much time. I call my quickie sketches something where I want to try and capture the form of something before it moves. So you don't want to spend too much time on it. You want to kind of capture the shape of it, and then poof, it's gone. Right? Like a bird flying away, or the leaves moving in the wind, or the lighting changing too can affect your drawings. So not too much time, just enough time to say, oh, that's a plant, or that's that kind of plant even. Okay, so that's a paper, packaging paper. I feel like I need something over here. And you, again, you can spend as much detail on these sketches as you like. I'm kind of rushing through here because I want to do a couple more sketches on those other papers. And hopefully, you know, you're sketching with me. That would be great. I'm just going to chop that. And I'm going to use it for under this just because this is so thin. I don't know if this is going to tear or not. Find another leaf. There we go. Indian currant. Okay, so we're going to go up top here. And another one this way. A little cluster in the middle. Another one. So not, if I screwed up, it doesn't matter because I'm just sketching. I'm just having fun sketching here. Hopefully you can see what I'm doing. My hand is not in the way. A cluster of seeds or flowers here. See, just a scribble kind of indicates that there's something going on there. This is very thin paper, so I can see it tearing easily, though it hasn't for me yet. And I am pretty rough. Very delicate looking sketch with this paper. And this, of course, has the dark paper behind it. That dark piece we were just using. Okay, and that's that sketch. So you can see much more delicate than over top of this, but we'll glue it to something and see what happens. And this is just a fibrous piece of paper. I'm not sure, maybe it's got some coconut fiber in there. I can't say for sure. It's just a random piece. Let's just draw one out of my head here. I just want to, just a simple kind of, I like to tuck leaves behind each other too, gives a little bit more depth to the drawing. And you can spend hours on this, or you can spend 5 minutes. Completely up to you. I like to darken the ones behind here. Kind of push those back and pop the lighter ones forward. Okay, maybe a little more coming off here. Fill in that negative space a little bit. My pen's just constantly moving. Try not to overthink things. So see how thin that is? That line would not support these three. So visually it looks a little odd, so I have to bulk that up a little bit, make sure it can handle the weight. And as it goes down, it gets a little thicker. Okay, I think that's good. Let's glue these now. Let's see where it takes us. I'm gonna cut them all out into smaller pieces, and then we'll experiment. Okay, so just trimming up the last little bits here. This is the tissue paper, very fine. And this is the tracing paper. You just love that sound. I love that sound. Okay, so I got my sketches. And I have some random pieces of paper here. So a piece of leftover book, a book page, some plain, boring, not boring, but like plain, no texture on them kind of paper. And these aren't scraps, these are pieces I've pulled out. So this is like an old watercolor page that I coffee dyed a long time ago that's been sitting around. And this is just a plain vintage page out of an old book. So I wanted some busy backgrounds, I wanted some plain backgrounds just to kind of see what we might like. This is the Mod Podge I'm using. It is very old and gooey. It's so old, it's got like chunks in it. It's really kind of gross, but I don't want to waste it. I want to use it. So I would recommend maybe some fresher Mod Podge, but when this is what I've got, this is what I've got. So I am just taking a brush and I'm just going to coat the page. Now I like to leave the page in the book if possible. I think it helps stop it from curling as much. This is the tissue paper. So what I love about tissue paper, which I found in the past, is it glues down pretty darn smooth. No air bubbles. The more I paint it, the more likely it will tear. But I put it down and it's done. And we'll see when it dries what the difference is. What I do find is very transparent. So whatever you glue it to will show through significantly. So here's the other tissue paper one, and let's put it on a plain background, preferably with less chunks. Like I said, this Mod Podge has to be, I'm gonna say 15 years old. I've had it a long time. I never think to use it because I usually just use, sorry, this is tracing paper. This is the tracing paper going down. As soon as I glue it, I knew, because see how it likes to curl up? It does not like to get wet, and it will start to wrinkle a lot. Hopefully I'm in frame here, sorry. It will wrinkle really badly, which isn't necessarily a bad thing because you can ink that later, which if this video isn't too long, we will do. And it can bring out some really funky textures, but it does not like to cooperate when being glued. Now, maybe a different kind of glue, a varnish, maybe would work better than your typical Mod Podge. See how hard it is it doesn't cooperate. But we're gonna let it dry and we're gonna see what happens. Sorry, this is tracing paper. Where's my other tissue paper? There it is. I wanted to put the tissue paper on a plain background. So let's do that here. And what background you pick really does influence the overall result. So you can see how nicely tissue paper glues down. Nice and smooth compared to tracing paper that has some sort of repellent, water repellent in it. I'm assuming it's wax. Okay, so we'll put that aside. We'll let that dry. I'm gonna actually use the top end here. Maybe this one, or should we do this one on here? Something busy. Let's do it on a busy surface. And once I've got a bunch of sketches, this is what I'll do with them. So I'll sketch in my bed or something at night, watching YouTube or a movie. And then the next day I'll go in the studio and I will glue everything. And these sketches are also really fun to tear up. So say you have a sketch and you don't love it. That's kind of fun. I really like how the texture's poking through a little bit. Say you have a drawing you really don't love it. You can really have some fun tearing them up and reusing them as little background textures in other clusters and things. So don't throw away your sketches. Use everything up. This is the, what was that? The pattern paper, sewing pattern paper, which was a bit stronger than I was expecting it to be with a pen. So that's going down on this plain neutral page. Okay, now I'm going to move this aside, let that dry. So what have we got left? We've got 2 tissue papers left. So let's do tissue paper on the brown here. Again, we're going to try and get it to cooperate. And you'll see as soon as I put it down and it has a chance to react to that water, it will start to bubble. And be like, I don't want to be glued down here. That one went a lot smoother. It's starting to wrinkle now. So maybe this paper being thicker than a book page paper made a big difference. Okay, now let's put this last one on one of these. Pull that off. Great way to use up book pages too, by the way, if you're like me and have far too many. Now this one is not going to be transparent. It's a thicker paper, but it will have a nice look against this book page and the texture poking through. Whoop. And it's wrinkled because it was in a box, so it's kind of wrinkly. But that one went down quite nicely as well. Again, wrinkling's not necessarily a bad thing. We're going to have some fun with this after. The biggest challenge is the air pockets. See how the air is trapped underneath? That's what we want to avoid as much as possible. I'm going to take off as much glue as I can. Just kind of push. Now, if this was a different kind of pen, this would all run. This would all kind of smoosh around and just be a big mess. So be mindful of the pen that you use. But this is really kind of fun to see the results of these. I can't wait. We're going to let those dry. I'm going to be patient. I'm going to let them dry. For those other ones to dry, I've got some that have dried already. So the other ones we just did are just over on the side of my desk here, wet still. But I did these earlier, and now these are dry. This one's not dry. And I thought we could play with these and see what we think about them. Okay, so this one is tissue paper. Tracing paper. So you can see how it hasn't fully glued down. So that I'm going to add more glue to, and we're going to let that dry a little more. Because I do want it glued. Now you can, of course, reinforce this with the sewing machine, but I don't want to. I want glue to be the star here. So I'm just going to move that one aside. This one is tissue paper. I can tell because I didn't get glue here. And it's glued onto just a piece of coffee dyed scrap. And I really love how soft and delicate that looks. I think that's going to be really quite special in a journal. And to tidy it up, And you can have fun too, kind of tearing some of this back. It can create some interesting textures as well. If you like that grungier look. Try and cut it straight. Which you'll probably never see on this channel. Okay, so that was nice. I like that. This one's not stuck here either, so we'll pull it off. Put these in our scraps. This one is tissue paper stuck to just plain whiteboard. Just like a plain white piece of paper. Also nice. Has some nice texture to it, but doesn't really do anything in the sense that it is just on white paper. But if you add ink to it, or watercolor, it might spark some interest. Still has that delicate sketch look to it, but I mean, I could have done that straight on a white piece of paper. This is tissue paper stuck to an old music page. So you can see how transparent tissue paper goes because the background has come so far forward, it's hard to see the difference. So this is the kind of thing where I would probably cut this up or tear it up and use it more for a cluster or textured interest in the background. I feel like it gets a little lost, or I would put some ink on it. Let's pull out our ink here. I'm going to pull this out, and I'm going to pull some frayed burlap, and let's pull out our vintage photo, classic vintage photo. So here maybe I would bring out a little bit more of the foreground by rubbing just inside the leaves. So I use the side of my sponge here, and I'm focusing on just getting the leaves and not the background at this point. You can also use your pen and draw on top of it again. You can use paint. And now it's pulled it forward a little bit. And then just to make the whole thing cohesive, I would probably add a little to the edges. So that's kind of nice. It's brought it back a little bit. It was a little lost in the background. Put that one there. This one is the tissue paper, tracing paper. I'll get it right. I'll get it right at some point. This one is the tracing paper. So much stiffer, not quite as transparent. So still get a little bit of music note coming through, but this is definitely shows up a lot more. So I'm just gonna trim this one down. Just fold this over. You might want to use this as a little piece in your journal that does this. I am going to cut where the tissue paper is not on there though. What I want to do with this one is maybe run it right over the top and see if it will grab those wrinkles. So instead of trying to fight the nature of papers, work with them. So instead of trying to get your tracing paper to lay completely flat, which is against its nature to do because it doesn't like to get wet, you can work with it where it's wrinkly and grab those wrinkles and create a different look. So two different looks here. Where's the other one? So tracing paper, tissue paper. Okay. What else did we do? I think I did. This is tissue paper just on a piece of thin book page. Again, this did not get glued. I love to rip this off because when I go to ink it, I feel like it picks up that roughness, right? So the more tears it has, the more kind of interest it can have. I'm going to ink this whole thing. So this one is tissue paper. Kind of ink the background. And then I'm going to cut it because I want to give it a richer edge. with my ink. And look at all these lovely scraps we've got going on. Oh, my sponge is coming off. I'll grab another one. Just want to make the edges just a little bit bolder. I have to hold it, otherwise my camera shakes. So there's some tissue. That's really pretty. I love that. How nice would that look inside a journal? Fabulous. Okay, what else did we do? This is another one on the same paper, but this time it is tracing paper, so you can see all the wrinkles. So the first batch that I did, I only used tracing paper and I can't think. Tracing paper and tissue paper. Oh, my brain. So this is tissue paper. These last two are tracing paper, and they are stuck down to old coffee dyed paper in this one. Again, grabbing those wrinkles. Now, because this paper's thicker, I think I got a lot less wrinkles, which is pretty interesting. Scrub that off. So you see how it leaves behind these beautiful textures. So really get messy with it, grungy, and have some fun. That's really pretty just on its own. I would leave that just like that. That would make such a pretty pocket. And then this one we will cut. So this one's a lot thinner, this paper, and you can, I don't know if you can see, I'll show you with the ink how much more wrinkly it went. So that's something to note. If you don't want it wrinkly with your tracing paper, glue it to a thicker piece of paper and you'll get less wrinkles. Loving the wrinkles like I do, then glue it to a thinner piece and you'll get this lovely fun texture on your paper. Love that. See the wrinkles there. Okay, let me just ink the edge the lazy way. Just so it's all the same. And I think that was it, right? This one we're letting dry. Oh, and I did this one. So this one was tissue paper, and I glued it on top of a little cluster I had already made, just to see, you know, visually how other papers behind might poke through, and I quite like it. So that's another idea. So if you have clusters already started in your journals, then you can just glue these right over top, which could be a lot of fun. So let me move my precious scraps. We don't want to lose those. So that's quite pretty, just on its own like that. This isn't glued, so let's rip that off. I really just don't, I think the key for me anyways, and it's not for everyone, is just not to stress over it. I've got enough stress in my life. I don't want to worry about things not being glued properly, or, you know, filming videos is already stressful enough for me. I don't worry about the end result. I'll just pull it off. Sometimes it works, sometimes it ends up in the scrap bin. Nothing wrong with that at all. There's a bit that didn't glue. Get that off there, throw that in the garbage. All right, there we go. Quite pretty effect. Make sure I'm in camera here, because my camera's backwards. Yeah, I like that. Okay, so we got these. And I'm still waiting for the ones we did together to dry. But I think they have a pretty cool effect and a huge range, depending what you glue it to, what you're sketching, what ink you're using. So pretty. Let's put some in a journal. Where's the journal? Let me pull out one of mine that I keep. And we'll play with that. We're still waiting for some things to dry. Mostly I want this page to dry. The ones that of the papers that we didn't use before, because obviously you see how they dry. So like you can take a sketch, I wish I had one right now actually that I had left, and glue it right on here. And it would have that cool effect of a background like this on top of there. That would look so neat. Make sure I'm in frame. Let's see, where do we want to put one? Oh, that's another one. That's this tracing paper. I did this one too. So let's put this one in here. Since we didn't finish it up, I'm just gonna tear the non-glued parts down. This is the tissue paper, tracing paper. I think this is actually tracing paper because it's on a thick piece of paper, so it's not quite so wrinkly. I'm gonna put my ink. Do just the background and not ink over the flower as much. Again, just getting your inker in that spot. You can also use a paintbrush. Okay, leave a little bit of a white spot down the bottom there. And then we could put this, so there's a pocket here already. And I could put a pocket right there. I'm gonna find my double-sided tape. Now I've moved everything so much, so many times, I can't find anything now. I'm like, where did I put this? And where did I put that? It's crazy. It's really kind of silly how much my brain does not like change when it comes to moving my studio around. So I did a studio tour where I basically tidied things up. It wasn't a huge change, but I've changed it again since then because I found it was just overcluttered and driving me bonkers. And I missed my easel. I couldn't get my easel back in, so I had to rearrange it again. And now I'm working on this really small desk, which has proved to be quite challenging for a messy person like me. And it's been a challenge, but I just want to make sure I'm gluing it to the right page here. I do like love moving things around, but man, is it annoying when you can't find something. I'm just gonna get my corner rounder. That I knew where that was. And I'm just gonna get this corner here just to soften that a little bit. So this video is a lot longer than I was expecting it to be. But I'm having fun, and I hope you're having fun with me. So there, got a little tuck spot in there that we can tuck something in. Tuck another sketch maybe. Let's touch this guy. Nice high contrast. I might tone it down a little bit. Just make sure it blends in a smidge. Because I do have white over here, so you don't have to have tons. I think I might stamp a little texture on him as well. If I can find my stamps. This guy here. This is, I think I'll go black. And bring out my StazOn. This is my illegible handwriting stamp that I use just about every video. And I just want to kind of add a little visual interest to the back. There we go. Okay, there's that. And we could also put a hole in here and make it a tag. I'm going to leave it like that. I think I might round the corners though. Just to soften it a little bit. That piece came off. No biggie. There's a ribbit. No biggie at all. Oops, wrong corner. There we go. Just ink this. There. That's a little softer. All right, what else do we want to put? Just glue one of these in for a focal point. That's pretty. Do that. I'll use a glue stick for that. All right, let me put this back on. I can hear people yelling at me in the background. This is a really old ink pad, so I'm not concerned about it. I have a replacement I haven't opened yet for my vintage photo. I want to get every drop out of that I can. Okay, just kind of fun. A little piece of lace down here would be really nice. Something here. Don't think I have anything that I sketched that was that small, so we'll keep going. Okay, so we'll pull out here. It's the belly band. There's a sketch in it by the looks of it. Let's find a nicer sketch. Throw that back in the scrap pile. There we go, like that. Or should we stick that on top? Maybe we'll do that. Thin this out a little bit. And it's just such a lovely way to introduce your own artwork into your journal. I mean, these are your sketches. And I think they're so romantic and charming when they're glued on an old piece of paper, old book journal, and they just have this lovely charm about them. Maybe it's just me, I don't know. I don't want to hide it, that's all. And then I've got this cute little thing. Maybe switch these, put this one here, put this one here so we can see a little bit more of it, and then we can see the edge of that. There we go. There, I like that. Okay, next. Some green. It's kind of fun. I think I'll leave those. I think I'll leave this bit. This paper's a bit thin. I don't think it's going to hold too much. I'm going to flip out here. What else do we have left? These ones are a bit flimsy. These are on thin paper, so this is more something you would just glue down. So let's glue that one. This is my favorite part of journaling, is filling it with all the goodies you've made. And then when you mass make these, you're just so ready to glue them in and have so much fun gluing them in. Like that. I'm going to leave that. Do something here. So we could just use the other part of that and just put this in here. But this is a bit on the flimsy side, so I might stick it to another piece of paper. So we're still waiting. These are almost dry now, so we'll get to it. It's going to be pretty generous with the glue on this. And just kind of give it a little something to make it a little bit more stable. Stitching would be really nice on this too. But I haven't got my sewing machine set back up since I've moved this little desk around, which is also another problem I'm having. I need another little desk for my sewing machine, because if it's not out, I'll never use it. And I like the texture of sewing in my journals, though I don't love sewing. It's nice. I'll just throw that in there if I can get it in. It's pretty thick on the other side. Maybe it won't work. There we go. That over, and then let's put this last one in. This is nice and rigid. Really love that piece. I might just tuck this one in somewhere. This is glued. It's a tuck spot with some other. There's a sketch there. So I've already got a sketch on that one. This is just tied. These journals are just tied in. So I like to just tie these in. Maybe we'll just add it to this for now. There we go. So pretty. Just love it. Instantly warms it up too. Like the contrast of the plain pages, like plain color pages where they're not really inked yet. They may not ever get inked against the warm nature of these inks and coffee dyes. Okay, let's put that aside for the time being and have a look and see if these are dry. Almost dry. Dry enough. So this one is the pattern paper. I'm just going to cut them out. I don't think I need to do anything with them. I think you guys get the idea. I just want to show you the final result here. This is tissue paper, still, this is tissue paper, this is tracing paper, still wet. But we went over what that does. This one's still damp, but I'm going to cut it. So pretty. That was that kind of mixed coconut type textured paper. I couldn't tell you what it's made of. It was just a scrap. But this is where the experimentation comes in and how much fun you can have experimenting with different papers. And where's our other fun piece of paper? We did another piece here with the brown, which is still a bit damp. I love this. This is really nice. The dark brown paper with contrast to the book page is quite pretty. Even though it's not straight, it doesn't bother me because I think it'd be a really cool focal point in a journal. So there are 3 more different papers. Oh, the possibilities! Woohoo! So much fun. Well, I'm going to leave it there because this video went a little longer than usual. I hope you stuck around with me. Please hit the like and the subscribe button if you're interested. It really helps the channel and I appreciate it. I appreciate the viewing and the kind comments and suggestions you guys leave. And I hope you enjoyed this content today. Have a wonderful day, everyone. Okay, bye.